Before I even start the presentation, a little bit about myself. My name is Gautami, Gauti for short. Someone called me guacamole at one of my Starbucks order, so I usually use my short name. But apart from watching murder mysteries on Netflix, I work as a full-time senior customer engineer, aka solutions architect at Google Cloud. I will celebrate my 7th year Googleversary in 3 days, but mainly I work with enterprises to help them make smart decisions about cloud. I thought, let me kind of draw my brain map, right? Like, what is it that I think about every day? So obviously, I forget to unmute myself a lot in meetings, but overall, I think a lot about Agentic AI. I think about learning AI every day because you got to stay on top of the game. It's literally changing every second. There are new foundational models coming in everywhere. Also, fun fact, this image was generated by an LLM. In terms of the topic today, we are going to talk about building agents on enterprise cloud, right? And since I work at Google, I have my experience mainly in GCP, but you can use this across any platform or tool that you're using. So hopefully you'll kind of learn more about like how you can incorporate these agents at scale wherever you are. Today we are going to talk about why Agentic AI is a big deal, some industry adoptions in customer use cases, what is Agentic Enterprise Foundation, what does it entail, some best practices of building an agent, a reference architecture, and hopefully in the end, you'll be able to make smarter decisions about agents. Unlike the previous presentation, I won't be demoing anything, but I do have links to GitHub and Docker that you can kind of try it on your console. Let's dive in. So obviously, the promise of AI is truly transformative. It holds an unprecedented efficiency, new avenues for innovation, and fundamentally reshaping how the business is operating. But still, you will be surprised, only 25% of the company leaders say that they have a comprehensive AI strategy in place in their organization. This gap between aspirational and actionable strategy is where organizations are currently grappling. They see a vision, but they struggle to kind of incorporate the how. So what are some fundamental challenges? Or what are some steps that actually enterprises can take to be more AI efficient? Number one is being more intelligent. It's no longer about automating repetitive tasks, right? It's all about how can you incorporate these AI agents into your infrastructure and make them autonomous so that they can decide and learn from the experiences and do better every time. Number two is impactful AI development platform. Having great AI models is one thing, but if you can't deploy them efficiently at scale, then what's the point, right? It just becomes a theory. Truly, the deployment should be seamless and effective, and you should be able to ship these agents or AI platforms or applications efficiently without worrying too much. So that means that you need a deployment platform that is easy to scale up, can be adapted to any new LLMs out there, and integrate with tools and systems. Deep insights for decision making. So AI isn't just about an output, it's generating actionable insights. Is your agent able to do something? Is it able to kind of automate a lot of your tasks but schedule that meeting or have actionable insights, right? And how deeper you get is more how efficient your organization would be in terms of AI. Performance optimized infrastructure, right? Its infrastructure now is becoming more and more dominant, especially because in order to train these models, you need huge complex infrastructure out there to help support these complex applications. You require an underlying infrastructure that can scale and enable you to do data-driven decision making in a strategic way. Are you thinking about responsible AI? Are you exposing your LLM if they are doing testing, if some hallucination kind of pops out? Are you thinking about sustainability as well? So these are some things that kind of fits into the optimized infrastructure. And last but not least, secure data foundation. You know the famous term garbage in, garbage out, right? So now it's obviously becoming much better with the agent since it's able to kind of take garbage in, intelligence out, but we are still kind of far-fetched from having a streamlined data system where you can have those smart decisions made. If you don't have the right data foundations, it's really impossible, almost, to build an AI-first approach. Let's kind of dive deeper into what are some of these customers that are using agents. So I'm going to talk about 3 sectors. One is fashion, since I love it. So LVMH is a company, obviously. It has Louis Vuitton, Dior, Tiffany, etc. They explored AI agents for personalized styling, which is, it's a visible intelligence. You can actually see how it looks on you and have it more real time. Then there is Salesforce, which is an IT organization. It has a team, the legal team, that saved 9,500 hours annually by incorporating AI agents. Then in the financial sector, there is PayPal that uses AI, Agentic AI, to detect fraud while ensuring smooth transactions. So this is happening real time, right? Now, let's kind of take a step back. I'm sure you all know this, but to kind of get us grounded, what is AI agent? It is said that by 2028, which is not far from today, autonomous decision making is going to be the mainstream, right? That's how your applications are going to run. So number one is foundational models, which is the brain of the agent. Do you have the right foundational models that is helping you to power and understand some of the natural language, reason, and also generate these responses? It's an engine that drives agents' capability. Then there is tools. Obviously, agents or LLM models are trained with limited data, or not limited data, but it's trained on vast data, but it's limited or cut off up to a certain date, right? So you want to make sure that you're grounding it with tools and extending through APIs so that they can actually do things beyond just the data they are trained on. Memory, obviously, if you have experience building agents, there is a concept of short-term memory and long-term memory. Do you have that in place? Do you have your databases that you're connecting your agents through? Or do you have long memory that you can extend it as your capability to remember the session that you're talking through? Like, for example, in ADK, if some of y'all have used its agent development kit, we have something called as the session ID that can be exported and stored for long-term memory. Then you have the reasoning loop, which is an iterative cycle where the agents kind of thrives to do better, like all of us in this room, right? The agent observes, thinks, acts, observes again, and just keeps getting better. So that's the reasoning loop where it kind of, makes it more powerful. And then the orchestration engine, which is kind of the thing that brings it all together, is the layer that manages the entire process. It manages your reasoning loop, your tools, what is supposed to do when, the foundational LLM, and the whole thought process that is going into the system. Now, building agents specifically comes at many levels of abstraction. Right? So depending on where you are in your journey, you want to kind of pick and choose the level of abstraction that you want to incorporate. If you are someone that needs more control in your agent, not life, but more control over the agents, you want to be able to do it yourself. You want these LLMs to integrate. Some of the examples would be like using a raw OpenAI model or Gemini API calls to managing your session data in your custom databases. Then there comes level 1 and 2, which again, not going deeper into it, but overall it just means a low-level LLM framework or a low-level orchestration framework. A classic example of low-level LLM framework would be a LangChain for its expression language or prompt templates that it's being saved, or output parsers. So obviously there is, they provide the basic abstraction that is needed, but it utilizes the common LLM-related tasks, making it easier to work with models. Then there is low-level orchestration framework, which is nothing but these frameworks are focused on defining and managing the flow and control of data between them. A classic example would be LangGraph for building stateful multi-agent applications with LLMs by defining a cyclic graph. Number 3, which is the most common or the sweet spot, as we call it, and that's what we recommend to a lot of the customers, is agentic frameworks, right? These are frameworks that provide high-level abstraction especially designing for building agents. They often have built-in support. They have agent tools, session management, memory. They also have monitoring and making sure that it's healthy from an agent standpoint. Some of the example is Google's agent development kit. Obviously, there is Crew AI, OpenAI agent, AutoGen, and it's kind of the SDK. Then last but not least, which is the level 4, which is the no-code platform, which is basically these platforms allow users to build agents through their own user interface, right? Like if you are for sure committed to a platform that has been in your company, this is usually the place where customers are like, oh no, we absolutely love what we are using. We want to build no-code, high-code agents in the platform we are in. The advantage to that is obviously the development efforts might not be that high, but it gives you less control. It might be a bit more expensive. So when building an agent, you want to make sure, since we are in a world where things are evolving, you want to have an open source mindset where you're able to mix and match whatever you want based on the capabilities that you're using. So something where level 3, which is agent framework, is a good spot to be in. Now let's look at a user journey, right? What do I mean by that? An agentic workflow framework. So obviously a user comes in, there is a user that prompts that, hey, what are my sales quarters? What are my sales for this quarter? Or what is booking, like help me book a meeting or help me schedule a meeting. Summarize this customer feedback for me. So these are prompts. Then obviously they go into the client, which is the user's gateway. It kind of passes the information. It could be, something that captures the user's intent or request. Then it goes through the agent solutions, which is the orchestration brain that we saw, where the logic resides of how it's supposed to kind of get the information by the integration of the tools, right? If I want to be like, hey, I want to travel to LA in September, then it would look for flights there. So I would need an API that kind of calls it. And obviously, last but not least, the data sources, right? It can extend it through your databases, it can extend to your custom logic, and things like that. So let's go through an example, right? So since I work a lot with GCP's native platform, I'm going to go over an example of a workflow that resides under Google ADK, which is Agent Development Kit. But this is kind of true for anything that you use, right? So number one, just to set some context, this is a data science agent. What a data science agent in this case does, it will take natural language processing, like statement, and then it would go and connect to my database. It would fetch the right data, and it would summarize for me. This data science agent can also visualize the data for me. So let's see how does that actually look like. So similar to LangChain and Crew, obviously this is a SDK framework. I'm going to walk you through the workflow with the data science agent. So obviously number one actually is I'm the user prompt, which is I'm looking for to understand the sales trend in the Look e-commerce platform. So obviously as an agent, I've exposed and given the access to the Look e-commerce platform. Then it goes and kind of extracts, okay, I do have an access, and it's going to call what we call as the master agent, which is the call intent understanding. From there, it's going to go to the next step, which is the agent is going to find interesting questions to ask, right? So it's going to actually see, all right, like what are some questions or prompts? So this is a prompt that we have saved as a user experience for them to ask. From there, it's actually going to go and call the other agent, which is the DB agent, which is the database agent that actually goes and picks up the data from the database. From there, it's going to pick the top 5 selling products, since my question was sales, and it's going to make sense of it, and it's also going to give me an explanation. Now, this is how I've designed the data science agent. You can obviously customize it based on the agent card, which is kind of like an ID card. It has characteristics, what language you want it to perform, or even like what characteristics is. It's kind of like role playing for the agent, which is saved in the agent card. Then last but not least, as if you remember, I mentioned, it has the capability of visualization, right? So it would then go and generate a trend for me, which I can then copy paste into a report I'm sending to a CTO. Now, great, you learned about what are agents, obviously why it's important, what a workflow is. Now let's talk about what exactly the Agentic Foundation mean and what are the things that it entails. So Enterprise Agentic Foundation comes with two things. One is the Agentic platform and other is the framework. It's like, one is incomplete without the other, and you want to make sure that you're thinking about both these things when you're developing your agentic application. Now let's look at agentic platform. So a classic example, like in our case, is the Vertex AI agent engine, or the where your agent is going to run. This is the runtime on any cloud, right? Whichever cloud you're using, you want to make sure that you are building that architecture based on where it's running. So things like deployment and scaling, operations, core services are kind of defined here. The number two component is the agentic framework, which is LangGraph or even LangChain or ADK, which is the how of building that agent. So you want to make sure that you are orchestrating, calling the tools, defining the memory, and also setting up multi-agent system there. So obviously MCP protocol was the one that they had launched, but 808 is agent-to-agent configuration. So you can build 10 agents and they can communicate with each other, right? Whereas MCP was more around the tool extension where they can communicate with tools. So we have a situation where you can build a multi-agentic system and you can have agents collaborate with each other. So why do we need both, right? You would have a place to run agents with the platform without the framework, but you won't have the tools to be able to sophisticatedly, I don't know if that's a word, but it would build a sophisticated agent logic, leading to a lot of customization. And framework without a platform, well, great, I can define an agent logic, but I would need a place to build it and manage the security and scaling, right? So for my production grade workloads, I would need a framework and a platform both. All right, now let's talk about security, the most important topic. I think in terms of security, AI and security go hand in hand. You want to give a lot of flexibility to yourself as a developer, but you also want to make sure that it's secure. Some of the things that you can actually do at your level when you're a developer is make sure that you're abiding by these rules, right? Number one is autonomy. Agents have the authority to act on the behalf, but a compromised agent can lead to an unauthorized access. So you want to make sure that the agent is kind of given to the access to the right way and to the right people. Number two is data access. Autonomy being like the keyword here. They have access to a lot of data. There was a blog, I don't know if you all have read about it, but there was an agent that was deployed in the company, and people were just having a conversation with the agent, and one of the conversation was, what's the salary of the CEO? And because the agent had access to the open source sheet, they were able to get that, which is insane. But obviously the problem was not with the agent, but the problem was with the access that the sheet had. So you need to be extremely careful of what the agent has access to. Number three is dynamic behavior versus security exploitations. So the LLM core can be influenced in unexpected ways in terms of generating, outputs. But you want to make sure that it's not exploiting. So you have to set up safety filters. You want to make sure that, the agent has its own brain, but you want to make sure that you're filtering out content that it's not supposed to produce. I work with some of the education tech spaces and companies, and obviously they develop a lot of children content, right? So you want to make sure that it's given access to only the content that is making sense out of it. So we want to make sure that at the base level, obviously a lot of the LLMs have safety filters on. So you want to make sure that they stay on, or if it's something which is, your use case needs it, then you can change it and work with the infrastructure provider. So the four things that you want to make sure is obviously your safety filter and parsing of the data, your data security and privacy, where IAM access management kind of comes into picture, Number 3 is your monitoring, audit, and logging, which kind of I touched upon in the previous slide, but are you monitoring your agent properly? Is it supposed to do the functions? How popular is your agent in your organization? These are kind of some things that help you know as well. It's important to kind of have the analytics behind it. And last but not least, responsible AI, which is making sure that you are abiding by the AI principles. It's not biased, it's fair, it's transparent, it has accountability, so that if there are any hallucinations, you know who the real problem is. All right, now thinking about agent architecture, what are some things that you should keep in mind while deploying agent at scale? Number 1 is defining your scope and goals. Who is the agent for? Which are the users that it's going to interact? Because a lot of times now, just because it's a buzzword, not everything needs to be agentic, right? A lot of it can be just integrated. A lot of it can be automated without it being an agentic framework. So you, I think, want to make sure that you're not building aimless agents, but you actually have a real goal defined to build that. Number 2 is you design for testability and evaluation. I think we're in a world where we have a lot of options for everything. So you want to make sure that you're picking for your right use case. Is it a legal agent? Maybe you need an LLM that understands that language. Is it a data science agent? So then obviously I need to make sure that it understands the databases that I am connected to. So things like that. So it's important you evaluate your agents against each other to make sure that they are performing at the right way. Having human in the loop, I feel, is underrated. We are still important. The most common, I guess, misconception is AI taking our jobs. Not really. People who don't use AI are at risk, but we all are here, so we are at a good spot. But you need to make sure that you have human in the loop to make sure that, it's not kind of being there is not a lot of autonomy, but it's kind of making sure that, okay, everything looks good. And then last but not least, your robust error handling. You want to make sure that, the catch-all extra line of code that you write, if there are any errors in your agent, it's kind of handled automatically. And then last but not least, feedback. Extremely important iterative process. The agent learns automatically, but sometimes it's important to have that feedback loop so that the agents can do better. All right, we are kind of almost towards the end. But this is a reference architecture. It is a lot, I get it, but it hopefully tells you like what are some of the things that are important in order for you to build a agentic AI application, right? If you remember, obviously there was the input and interface level or interaction level at the very top, which is your app, how it's interacting with the user. Is it a chat window, or is it an API, or is it a mobile app? Then comes orchestration and reasoning, your agent runtime, your agent framework, engine, planner, everything kind of falls there. Then you have your intelligent core, which is nothing but your memory, your long-term, short-term memory, extended memory bank for the in-session, or if you want to have it as a multi-session memory bank. And last but not least, obviously, tooling and data interoperability. You want to kind of extend your agents through MCP or A2A, making sure that your function calling mechanism and you have all those amazing things that are needed for your agent to do your job. Obviously, I think the previous speaker spoke a little bit about RAG. It's very powerful, obviously, in terms of connecting to the agent. You want to make sure that it's being grounded by responses and it's reducing hallucination, because that's kind of what would separate your agent from a better quality one. And then obviously it comes like the foundational services. It can be on any cloud, obviously, but in terms of how we have in GCP, we kind of manage a lot of things for you, which is the IAM, security, observability, but a lot of the other clouds also offer a similar offering. So overall, this is kind of your reference architecture. Now, before the last slide, obviously I spoke a lot about like building those agentic architectures, but it's important to understand where your users are, or even where your organization is in terms of who is going to use that agent. Is it a business user, or are those developers? And I think based on that question, your development of the agents would change based on that. So this is kind of a roadmap. If you, again, have a question that, hey, like we love a lot of flowcharts. This is specifically for Google. But again, since I have the most context, I'm kind of showing you what it looks like on a GCP perspective. But if you ask any LLM model, they can give you a map for any other cloud providers as well. But overall, the main key fundamental question is that what is the persona? Is it business or is it developers, right? And based on that, you want to kind of give them the experience based on what persona that we are targeting, right? If your team doesn't have developers, they have all business users, then you would want to have a fully managed automated platform where the business users are not worrying about developing an agent. So we have something like Agent Space, which is kind of an enterprise solution that has a capability of building no-code agent, right? And then on the right-hand side, which is giving the developers the full-on flexibility and control to do whatever the hell they want, not really, but giving you the ability to pick and choose based on what your use case is. So it's less constrained, but obviously there has to be like a agent team that makes sure that you're building that breeding ground for agent so that it's secure and people and developers can do what they are best at. In terms of on the right-hand side, obviously, as you can see, there are other DIY frameworks. You can use Langs and other like Autogen or whatever frameworks that you're comfortable with. If it's working for you, keep using it. There is no need to change. But make sure that you have flexibility to kind of try out different things and you evaluate it against each other and eventually make a decision. And then, yeah, that's about it. In terms of the business users, there is another aspect to it, which is customer experience. So a lot of the products out there needs you to interact with them and have like a live support. So conversational agent kind of falls into that category, which is a no-code natural language UI, where I don't know if people are familiar with Dialogflow. You can build those conversational if it's more like deeper, understanding of the agent and context. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys learned something new about Agentic AI.